Welcome back. I'm the Adventure Sphere. Actually, I'm Ian.
I don't know where he got that voice.
I'm the Adventure Sphere.
Okay, well, speaking of adventures, we're designing a Downbelow adventure here, and we've been taking turns. I talk about the narrative side of things, Ian talks about the mechanical side of things, and we look at how the two intertwine.
And sometimes I imitate Portal 2 characters.
Which I have not played yet. Feel free to mock me in the comments below.
I'll have to fix that for him.
Sometime. Today I am actually going to be talking about scenes that I label scene and a half. This is scenes that are basically narrative interstitial scenes. We have talked briefly about the idea that interstitial scenes are largely mechanical, the how do you get there scenes. But there's some narrative scenes that make perfect sense to be in this kind of story that don't naturally and normally inherently fit into the scenes I've been talking about.
So basically when we said we'd be drawing back and giving you a broader picture, what we meant is that these don't fit in a specific order with the others that we're talking about.
In your classic D&D style module design, if you're going to meet an informant on the dragon's conspiracy to control the kingdom, you will do so in Scene 3 at the Rusty Dragon Inn. But we're not building things this way. This is something that takes its own pace. So I'm gonna list a couple of key narrative elements that will or could pop up, and then tomorrow I'm gonna bounce this over to Ian, and we'll go over this again tomorrow. But I'm gonna ask him what kind of successes and or failures would provoke these scenes into showing up naturally. So basically, each of these could show up once or more depending on your story needs. They will only show up when a character's successes or failures dictate that they'll show up. Without further ado, let's start with the obligatory Firefly quote, "Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal." In this scene, this is the film noir scene where a character's ally suddenly turns into an enemy. This could be something foreshadowed, this could be something out of nowhere, but for reasons that make sense to that allied character, the ally either always was or turns into an enemy. The two extremes are the person who had been on the payroll of the biodynamics recruitment for months to years, who identified the character as a friend, and then when it was time to get that wave in, sprung the trap. Alternately, this could be someone's friend, contact, co-worker, spouse, other loved one, boyfriend, girlfriend, who was approached, blackmailed, or otherwise coerced into betraying them to biodynamics or government interests. Ma'am, your girlfriend has been into some very bad things. Do you know where she is? If you tell us, then we will go easier on her, etc. That's one. Other option is the other side of curse your sudden and inevitable betrayal is the enemy that you have been forced to work with suddenly returning to their true colors, and even though we had a deal, they're altering the deal. Pray they don't alter it any further. Star Wars quote for the day. Option 2, Scene 2, I've got a job for you. This one is easy. If they go to a contact for advice that the contact has, the contact will not always give it to them for free. They may have a side job this is often narratively used to pad things out or to lead to another scene. That was a short one. The option 3, conspiracy theorists. This is the narrative interstitial scene where they get early clues about the conspiracy they're drawn into. This could be a lone gunman style, have you heard about the black vans abducting homeless people? One of them dropped a receipt with biodynamics on it. This could be something else, but at some point the characters are exposed directly to people theorizing about the conspiracy, whether or not they've come up with the ideas themselves.
Bonus points if there is a physical pushpin board with photographs and printed out news articles strung together with yarn.
Everyone needs a spiderweb yarn board.
To have a spiderweb of conspiracy connections, and yes, it has to be physical, even in this cyberpunk future, especially because that way it's not on the net and they can't find out about it.
Exactly.
And you know how they are.
Fourth possibility, this one is labeled, aren't you the guy who... this is when the characters are all over the news because of a prison break. and someone recognizes them. This can go a lot of different ways, but this is a consequences-oriented scene where the idea is that your action movie and your shenanigans aren't going on in a vacuum, and there are complications for what you've done.
So I've got a question about one.
Sure. Because I've got two more after this.
What kind of scene would be about, and maybe one of the two you've got is about this, what kind of scene might deal with the eventuality of, but you actually did it if one of the PCs or more actually did do the thing that they're being fingered for?
Actually, a lot of these could deal with that. Aren't You the Guy Who could deal with that. This is possibly someone who recognizes you from pulling the job, whether it's a criminal contact, a police, the arresting officer, etc. Sudden benevolent betrayal, because the person who betrayed you could have been the person who was going to wipe the footage for you, but ended up not doing it. I've got a job for you could totally be that, because it's like, hey, you did this job already. You got out of jail for it. You succeeded at the job. The conspiracy theorists could be that they contact you because they figured, and this one actually plays into one of the two that I hadn't mentioned. The conspiracy theorists might contact you because they had pegged you as being abducted by the conspiracy after your arrest. Now, one of the two that I hadn't mentioned yet is the informant. The informant is different than the conspiracy theorist because the informant is, in one way or another, directly connected with the conspiracy. This could be someone who's directly connected with the identity launderer who arranged for you to get into the conspiracy, or it could be someone who's having ethical problems with what biodynamics is doing. But the importance of the informant scene is that the informant is actually directly connected and giving you insider information.
Somewhere halfway between the conspiracy theorist and the inside informant would be a journalist with inside information.
But they still count as the informant for purposes of the broad strokes narrative interstitials. Finally, and this really is the last one, this is the one quickly labeled the other side. As I mentioned, the end goal of the biodynamics research is not something sinister. The end goal will make lives better for millions of people. It's the methods that they're doing that is questionable and out to make a buck because they've crossed many lines already. What's one more in the name of making lives better? The other side is after you've found out some information about the conspiracy, after you've found out how horrible it is, after you've found out what previous medical tests have done to the ruined bodies of victims, this is the time where you see the flyers, you see the mission statements, you see the results, and you see that while the in-between is this massive gray-black evil area, the end result is happy, smiling children and disabled war veterans able to run and play with their kids, and Parkinson's sufferers that are not deteriorating anymore, and so on and so forth.
Because making your players feel conflicted about things is fun.
Ideally,
we'll talk about how to do that mechanically tomorrow.
Yes.